All right. Okay, you got it. Okay. We have Hey Aleph.
Yeah.
One who derives a fruit's worth of benefit from hektish, even though he did not deteriorate it, has committed Meila. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva, but the Kachavim say any article that is subject to deterioration, one has not committed Meila unless he deteriorates it, while any article that is not subject to deterioration, once it has been derived benefit from it, he has committed Meila. How so? She placed a necklace on her neck, a ring on her hand, or she drank from a golden cup. Once she has derived benefit from it, she has committed Meila. If he wore a shirt, covered himself with a cloak, or chopped with an axe, and he has not committed Meila unless he deteriorated it. If one plucked hair from a katos when it was alive, and he has not committed Meila unless he deteriorated it. If one plucked hair from the katatos when it is dead, once he has derived benefit from it, he has committed Meila. If one derived half a pruta's worth of benefits from a consecrated object and deteriorated it by half a pruta, or he derived a pruta's worth of benefit from one object and deteriorated a different object by one pruta's worth, he has not committed Meila until he derives one pruta's worth of benefit and causes one pruta's worth of deterioration in the object. There is no commission of Meila after a commission of Meila has already taken place with consecrated objects except for an animal and temple service vessels. How so? If one rode upon an animal and his fellow came and rode upon it, and his other fellow came and rode upon it, or if one drank from a golden cup and his fellow came and drank from it, and his other fellow came and drank from it, or if he plucked hair from a katos and his fellow came and plucked hair, and his other fellow came and plucked hair, they have all committed Meila. Rebbe says anything that is not subject to redemption, it's subject to a commission of Meila after a commission of Meila. Okay.
Okay. Mishna Daled. Natal Evin or Korah Shel Hekdesh. So he picked up a stone, basically building materials that belong to Hekdesh. Okay. Just because he picked it up, it doesn't mean that he's done it. But if he took it for himself, right? Okay. So the Gemara says this is referring to the Gizbar, the guy who's in charge of the treasury, right? And he takes an object for himself, he still hasn't committed the Meila. But if he gives it to his if he gives it now to his friend, he transfers ownership. He's done the Meila, but his friend who received it has not committed the Meila because it's he did the Meila by transferring it into a secular domain. Right. By the way, the Gemara, the temple property treasurer, who's I think the reason why this is, and I'm speculating here because I don't see it explicitly in Kahati, but it's because he is the property treasurer, and therefore he is the Yad of Hekdesh, and right. But if some other person came and picked it up, then he would be transferring it into his property because he's unauthorized. So he's basically stealing it from the Hekdesh. So it seems like he would have, and that's why the Gemara has to define it down, to define this case down, dafka to the temple treasurer. Okay. But his friend, so the treasurer gives it to his friend didn't commit the Meila because it was already rendered secular when it was given to him. Okay. If if he comes and takes it home and builds it into his house, he still hasn't committed Meila because it's still, he is the temple treasurer and he hasn't transferred domains yet. Until he lives under it for the value of a shava prota, which wouldn't be much, because if you consider the rental or whatever this is worth in terms of the rental, then he's done his Meila on it. Natal pruta shel hekdesh. If he took a pruta of hekdesh, he still hasn't committed Meila. If it stays within the domain of the temple property, as long as he hasn't actually taken it and walked out of the mikdash with it. Nasana lechavero, but if he gives it now over to his friend, he's the one removing it from the temple property. Hu ma'al v'chavero lo ma'al. He's the one who did the Meila, his friend did not. Nasana lebalan. If he now gives it over to the balan, who is the bathhouse attendant, okay, and even okay, afal pi shelo rachatz. even though he hasn't yet taken advantage of the bathhouse and gotten into the bath. Okay, Ma'al, he's already committed Meila. Shehu Merlo. He's now acquired for himself the right to enter the bathhouse. So just because he hasn't yet actually done it, that right that he has now to enter the bathhouse and use it is that's considered enough to make him chayav in Meila. Okay, Mishna Hay. Achilas of Achilas Chavero. So what's happened is he ate a half a pruta's worth and fed his fellow the same amount. So he took Meila and he took a kodesh and ate half a pruta's worth and gave half a pruta to his friend. Okay, or there was a benefit, right? He had 1.5 prutas worth. He had 1/2 a pruta's worth of benefit, and he gave the same to his friend. Or his eating and his fellow's benefit, he ate a half a pruta and he gave as much benefit to his fellow as a half a pruta. His benefit and his fellow's eating, or vice versa, he got hana for a half a pruta and his friend got half a pruta. Mitztarfim zemze, they do combine with each other to yield a pruta, and he must bring the korban asham for the Meila. Why? Because he's the one who's responsible for it. He gave it to himself and he gave it to his friend. So the two things do combine, because both of them are benefit, and there's a benefit of a full pruta between the two of them, which he is ultimately responsible for. As we saw in the previous Mishnah, once he gives it over to his friend, he's the one who's responsible for it. So therefore, he's the one who has to bring the korban asham, right? So even though it's even if it's a long time, even if several years elapsed within the same spell of forgetfulness, as long as it's the same spell of forgetfulness, not that he suddenly remembered, oh, whoops, that was temple property. Then as soon as you have an idea, as soon as you realize you've done something, that closes off that episode. And you look, okay, what was it up until now? Was it a pruta's worth? Yes, chayav asham. No chiyuv. Okay, so that's one of the stringencies of Meila. For example, with eating, you've got to eat within the zman of kedei achilas pras. Otherwise, it's not considered eating. But Meila is just as long as it takes before he realizes what he's done wrong. All right. Perek Vav. Hashaliach she'asa shlichuso. Okay, so now you've got a shaliach who was told by his master, by his boss, whatever term you want to use, and he did what he wanted to do, what his boss wanted him to do. So in other words, so let's be clear about the cases. Kahati explains, if one gave his agent temple property or money in error for ordinary use, so he had money that he'd set aside for a korban, let's just say, and then he thought, oh, I need to do some shopping, so he got his servant to and gave his servant some money, and said, yeah, take this money and go and buy me some vegetables. And he didn't realize what the money was, and the agent did exactly what he said. Okay, so who's guilty over here? The owner. The owner committed Meila. He is the one who gave the money over, and the shaliach just did what he was told to do. Okay. Now, normally we say ein shaliach ledavar aveira. Like if somebody tells his shaliach, go and smash up Plony's windows, and the agent goes and smashes the windows, and Plony comes and says, hey, you broke my window, and the shaliach says, hey, it wasn't me, it was the guy who sent me. You want to sue him, don't sue me. And we say that's not true. There's no shaliach ledavar aveira. If he decides to go and smash up the windows, he's going to be chayav. Okay. Yeah. But in this case over here, the shaliach didn't know he was doing anything wrong, and this is not as far as he was concerned, this was perfectly kosher money. The mistake is entirely on the shaliach.
I don't understand. It says here, if the agent carries out his assignment, the householder has committed Meila. Mm-hmm. If the agent does not carry out his assignment, the agent has committed.
Right. So now that's the next case that we haven't yet seen. Okay. Now, if he didn't carry out his commission, okay. So what happened is the shaliach said, "Go and buy me carrots." And the guy said, look, he doesn't have, there are no carrots over here. I'm going to use my initiative, and instead I'm going to buy cucumbers. Now, as soon as a shaliach does something that the Sholech didn't tell him to do. He has violated his shlichus, and now he's acting independently. And now he's now taking this money and using it for something that he wasn't authorized to do. Now the Meila is on him because he's not acting under instructions anymore. He's taking Kodesh money and using it to buy cucumbers. So now that's on him. Okay. That's what we mean. He didn't do a shlichus. Now he's the one who did the who made the mistake. Okay, so the Mishnah spells it out. Ketzad Amar lo tain basar leorchim. So the householder said to his servant, "Go and give meat to my guests, please." And him kaved, and the shaliach went and gave them liver. He couldn't find the meat, so he said, "I'll give them the liver instead." Kaved v'nasan lahem basar, or vice versa. He said, "Give them liver," and he gave them meat instead. And it turns out that this meat was meat of hekdesh. Hashaliach mal. He's the one who's responsible. He gave them the wrong thing, and he's the one who committed the meila. Amar lo tein lahem chaticha chaticha. He said, "Give them each a little piece." Uhu amar tlush shtayim, and he tells the guests, take 2 pieces. Okay, so now he's gone above what the master said. And the guests went even further, and they took 3 pieces each. And it turns out that all of them have and it turns out that this meat was all hekdesh.
Right.
So now, what does the Mishnah say? Kulan malu. Everyone has done meila. Why? Because the master, because he gave permission for one. Okay, and it was hekdesh meat. The shaliach, because he went over and above and told them to take a second one, and the guests took the third one, which is also not authorized. So everyone is now committed meila. Amar lo, if the master said to the shaliach, give Amar lo havei min hachalon. So bring me the stuff that's in the window. So and this is a consecrated object. It's hekdesh that's sitting in the window. Or me gluskama, or from gluskama is a case or a sack or something like that. How's it translated for you?
Well, the verse that says, "Bring me the money from the alcove," or "Bring me money from the box," and the agent brought it to.
Okay, right. So the gluskama is the box. Okay, vehevilo, and the shaliach came and brought it to him. Afal pi she'amar ba'al habayis lo haya belibi ela mizeh. Even though the Baal Habayis said, no, I had in mind from the other one. Okay, and he brought from the one that he said, Baal Habayis Mahal, whatever the Baal Habayis told him to do, if he did what he said, even though the Baal Habayis got confused and said, tell me the other one, it's on the Baal Habayis, because what's the shaliach supposed to do other than follow his instructions? Okay. Or so again, if the shaliach went and took from the wrong place, so once again, if the shaliach did not follow instructions, then the meila is on the shaliach. Okay. And let's go back to Beis Gimel.
Okay. The bull offerings that are burned and the he-goat offerings that are burned are subject to meila from when they are consecrated. Once they are slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the tel yom, through contact with the mechusa kapurim, or through remaining past their time. Once the blood is sprinkled, one is liable on their account for pigul, nosher, and tomei, and they remain subject to meila in the place of the ashes until the meat has been consumed by the fire. The odor is subject to meila when it is consecrated. Once it is slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the tel yom, although contact with mechusa kapurim, or through remaining past its time. Once its blood is thrown upon the altar, one is liable on its account for pigul, nosher, tamei. Its hide is no longer subject to meila, but the meat remains subject to meila until it goes out to the place of the ashes. The chatos, the asham, and the communal shalom offerings are subject to meila from when they are consecrated. Once they are slaughtered, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the tel yom, through contact with the mechusa kapurim, or through remaining past their time. Once their blood is sprinkled upon the altar, one is subject on their account for pigul, nosher, or tamei. And the meat is no longer subject to Meila, but the sacrificial parts are subject to Meila until they go out to the place of the ashes.
Okay.
Okay. Arachim.
Yeah.
Let's see. If one sells a house if one sells a house that the house is a walled city, he may redeem it immediately, and he may redeem it all 12 months. There is like a kind of interest, but it is not interest. Should the seller die, his son may redeem it, but should the buyer die, he may redeem it from the son. He counts the year for only from the time he sold it to him, as it is said, until a full year has elapsed for him. And when scripture says full, it means to come the intercalary month. Intercalary months, Rebbe says he must give it a year and its intercalary days. If the final day of the 12th month arrived and it was not redeemed, it should become permanent by him. It's become permanently his. This applies both to the buyer and the recipient of a gift, as it is said in perpetuity. Originally, he would hide on the final day of the 12 months so that he was to become permanently his. Hillel the elder enacted that he should deposit his money in a chamber and break down the door and enter. Whenever the other one so desires, he may come and take his money. Whatever is within the wall is treated according to the law of the houses of walled cities, with the exception of the fields. Meir says even the fields in a house built into the city wall, Rabbi Yehuda says is not wanted. It says it is not treated according to the law of the house of walled cities. Rabbi Shimon says the outer wall is its city wall. Okay. Okay.
Menachos.
We will. Menachos. Okay. Gimel. The two Hagels of Yom Kippur are essential to the validity of each other. The two lamps of Shavuos are essential to the validity of each other, and the two loaves are essential to the validity of each other. The two arrangements are essential to the validity of each other, and the two spoonfuls of frankincense are essential to the validity of each other. The arrangements and the spoonfuls of frankincense are essential to the validity of each other, and the two kinds of breads of the non-fair, the three ingredients added to the red cow, and the four kinds of bread of the total offering, and four species of the hagulav, and the four ingredients of the Mitzvah's purification are essential to the validity of one another. The seven sprinklings of the red cows are essential to the validity of one another, and the seven sprinklings between the poles and the curtains and on the golden altar are essential to the validity of one another. The seven branches of the menorah are essential to the validity of one another. Its seven lamps are essential to the validity of one another, and the two scriptural passages which are in a mezuzah are essential to the validity of each other. And even the writing of one letter is essential to them. The four passages which are in the tefillin are essential to the validity of one another, and even the writing of one letter is essential to them. The four fringes of the tzitzis are essential to the validity of one another, and so are the and so they are all four one mitzvah. For Rabbi Yisrael, the four of them are four mitzvahs. The blue bread is not essential to the validity of the white thread, and the light is not essential to the validity of the blue. The tefillin of the hand is not essential to the validity of that of the head, and that of the head is not essential to the validity of the hand. The flour and the oil are not essential to the wine, and the flour and the oil are not essential to the wine, nor is the wine essential to them. The blood applications on the outer altar are not essential to the validity of one another.
Okay.
The bull.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Okay, Baba Matzia. Yeah. Very skimmel. If behind the fence or behind the wall he found young birds with their wings tied, or in the paths of the fields, he should not touch them. If he found a utensil in a heap of garbage and it is covered, he should not touch it. If it is uncovered, he must take it and announce it. If he found objects in a heap of stones or in an old wall, they belong to him. If he found objects in a new wall from the middle toward the outside, they belong to him. From the middle toward the inside, they belong to the owner of the house. If he rented it to others from even within the house, they belong to him. If he found things in a store, they belong to him. Between the counter and the storekeeper, they belong to the storekeeper. If he found money in front of the money changer, they belong to him. Between the stool and the money changer, they belong to the money changer. If one purchases produce from another or from another which sends him produce and he finds money inside it, it belongs to him. If it is tied, he must take it and announce it. The garment, too, was included in all of these. Why was it singled out? To compare it to and to tell you that just as a garment is distinguished on that it has distinguishing features and it has claimants, so too anything which has distinguishing features and which has claimants must be announced.
Okay. Psachim.
Okay, Gimel Dalet. Rabbi Gamil says these 3 women may knead at the same and bake in the same oven, one after another. But the comments say 3 women may be occupied with dough. Simultaneously, one kneads, one shapes, and the third bakes. Rabbi Akiva says not all women and not all kinds of wood, and not all ovens are alike. This is the general rule. If the dough rises, let her wet it with cold water. Partially leavened dough must be burned, but one who eats it is exempt from punishment. Furrowed dough must be burned, and one who eats it is liable to karas. Which dough is needed? Which dough is classified as partly leavened? When the furrows are like the locust horns, which are classified as furrows, when the furrows run into each other. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. But the comments say if one eats either of them, he is liable to karas. If so, which partly leavened dough? Whenever its surface turns pallid like that of a man when whose hair stands on edge. In the 14th of Nisan, 14th Nisan falls on Shabbos, one where we must remove everything before the Sabbath. These are the words of the mayor. The comments say everything is removed at its usual time, and Reb Elliot ben Tzadok says Truma must be redeemed before the Sabbath and coolant at its usual time.
It's interesting for me to see the the descriptions in Psachim of how dough ferments since I've been getting into making sourdough, because that's exactly what you do with your starters. You just leave it there to ferment, and you can see how it starts bubbling and
regarding all bloodstains found anywhere, they are tahor except for those found in rooms in the vicinity of the chambers of Tumah. Kuthin chambers of Tumah convey Tumah by means of ohel, because the Kuthins bury their stillborns there. The Yehuda says they not bury them, rather they are there. They cast them there, and wild animals will drag them away. They are entreated when they are entrusted when they say we buried stillborns there, or we did not bury them. They are trusted when they say about an animal if it has already given birth to its first offspring, or if it has not yet given birth to its first offspring. They are trusted with regard to the marking of graves, but they are not trusted with regard to the overhang, nor with regard to protrusions, nor with regard to the base of pros. This is a general rule concerning a matter in which there is a suspect. They are not trusted about it. And if a woman finds a blood stain on her flesh, opposite the genitals, she is tummy. But if the stain is not opposite the genitals, she is tahor. If the stain is found on a heel or on the tip of her big toe, she is tummy. If the stain is found on a leg or on her feet, on the inside, she is tummy. But on the outside, she is tahor. And on the insides, on either side, is tahor. If she found the stain on her tunic from the belt and down, she is tummy. From the belt and up, she is tahor. If she found the stain on the sleeve of her tunic, then if it reaches opposite the genitals, she is tummy, but if not, she is tahor. If she is used to taking the tunic off and covering herself with it at night, no matter where on a stain is found, she is tummy because the tunic moves around, and similarly for a palio.
Okay. And we are done for the day.
Okay, good. I don't know about tomorrow. I don't know what the schedule is, but I'll text you if we're back or.
Okay.